Shanna, you've led CLF's efforts to do the leak study in Boston, and you're quite familiar with the technical issues associated with leaks and what to do about them. There was some technical discussion today in the room. Was there anything that seemed notable to you?
I'd say the first thing that was really notable was the high level of engagement from the policy advisors from the White House and from Secretary Moniz himself. They had clearly spent a lot of time with all of the stakeholders and with all of the materials that have been developed over the past few years about this issue. And so it was incredible to see how much they understood what the roots of the problem are and the attention that they're giving not only to the issue of methane emissions from the oil and gas sector, but specifically to the emissions from the transmission and distribution sector. So that was really impressive. The second thing that I would say was very notable, at least from my perspective, is that we're starting to hear some of the recommendations and ideas that we came up with during the time that we were studying the issue from people in the industry, and that's a really good sign. They are definitely getting on board with the need to use the most advanced technology for detecting the leaks and monitoring and measuring how much methane is actually being lost from specific leaks. So that is a big step forward and something that I didn't hear the industry talking much about 2.5 years ago when we started this work, and I'm really pleased to see them coming around.
And do you anticipate that some of that forward progress we might be able to demonstrate in New England?
I do. I think we will see some of that coming into use in Massachusetts and hopefully in some of the other states. Rhode Island has been particularly progressive on the issue as well. But I think the funding initiatives that the Department of Energy is discussing in terms of having more accurate and cost-effective metering and measuring of the natural gas coming into the system and leaving the system is something that we'll see implemented in all of the New England states.
What about the relation of controlling leaks as a way of reducing methane emissions on the one hand to just flat-out expansion of the natural gas pipeline system on the other hand? That issue came up in the discussion. Were you surprised at that?
I was very surprised that one particular industry player seemed to say that expansion goes hand in hand with addressing the problem of leaks, because we're really talking about existing pipelines when we're talking about repairing leaks, and replacing that existing pipeline with new pipeline is completely separate from the question of whether it makes sense to build entirely new pipelines into new areas. And one of the other issues that I thought was very interesting when he made the remark about the need for expansion was that he clearly tied that to the idea of sending natural gas into new markets, and he also tied it directly to foreign trade. So I think it's really important to keep these two issues separate. When we're talking about replacing existing pipeline, that's about dealing with the system and using the current system that we have more effectively and efficiently. When people start talking about expanding the system, that's a different discussion, and it's one that we have to really bring our climate policy goals and targets into the discussion on, so that we make sure that any new infrastructure that we invest in is compatible with our climate change mandates.